Marhaba, this is Sarah Barakat, and I'm very excited to be part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Growth Officer at Globe Teleservices. As most of you know by now, this podcast takes you behind the scenes of the fast paced world of telecom and showcases the human side of some of the most well known individuals within the space. And today's individual is a person who epitomizes the phrase that some of the best things in life come in small packages. This person is especially significant for me because we both joined this amazing CPaaS industry around the same time. And what a journey it has been so far. Her name is now synonymous with the organization that she has so devotedly been a part of. And over a period of time, she has carved her space, especially within the operator community. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Sarah Barakat, Deputy Director, Operator Partnerships at Monty Mobile. Sarah, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you. Which part of the world do you belong to? And from where are you joining this podcast today?
Hey, Anurag, I'm blushing really. Thank you for the introduction. As you probably know, I'm Lebanese and I'm joining from home, from the heart of Beirut, where I reside. I live here, yeah.
Wonderful. And were you born in Beirut? Have your initial part of your life also been largely based out of Beirut, or were you in other parts of the country?
No, basically, yes, born, raised here, and living here, and not willing to move anytime soon.
I can understand that. And how about like during education or work? While I know that you've been with Monty for a long time, but at any point in your life so far, has there been an instance where you've either studied abroad or worked abroad?
No, look, I am an only girl on four boys, and three of them have left the country. So someone has to stay here to take care of the parents, right? So no.
All right, that's quite a perfect answer. I can't match anything on that. But I think the saving grace here is that thankfully our industry manages to make us step out, and that gives us a chance to be in other parts of the world, even if for just a couple of days. So yeah, I think in some shape and form, I do see you in different parts of the world, and I think that makes up for it, right?
Look, true, that's so true. And definitely at first, you're so excited for the traveling, spending some time abroad, visiting new countries. But with time, it becomes tiring. So it's not like a vacation every day. But definitely, we're thankful for that because we get to meet people, different cultures. So that's a nice part of the telecommunication sector.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So, Sarah, while we know that you've been a very integral part of Monty Mobile, I think both you and the company have literally grown together. But if I ask you, how did you stumble into this journey of CPaaS? What's your story? How did you get into the world of telecom? Was it by chance or was it by choice? And how has the journey been so far?
Yeah, trust me, it just happened to me. It wasn't planned at all. I've majored, double major in the University of Finance and Marketing. I was always planning to be more on the financial sector, in banks, in financial analysis. And then it just happened. My friend back then used to know the hiring manager at Monty. She called me one day. She said they are looking for a candidate. It's something interesting to do. And I was like, okay, I'll just take that interview and see how things go. And I was hooked 9 years later. Here we are.
Wonderful. So, from being a finance major who was going to be handling money, today you're helping operators make money. So, I think from that perspective, we are being able to continue our education and our specialization in some manner, aren't we?
Yeah, true. And Monty is going into fintech as well a bit with our sister company. So it's kind of bringing my fintech passion back to me at certain point.
Wonderful. Cool. So I guess life comes around full circle and you do get to pursue finance as part of your career. Wonderful. And within your career so far, Sarah, I'm sure there would have been many memorable and impactful moments. But if today you can share one such moment with our listeners, what moment would that be?
Look, in life, we always look for turning points. Like sometimes there are some stops in our life where it really changes the way how things are going. And I think at Monty, the first exclusive deal that we have signed, I think it was back in 2017. It was a turning point for the whole company. So I would say that was a really impactful moment for all of us.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for you personally, I've seen you been very, very active in this operator monetization space. So I'm sure the first one would have definitely been a very special one.
Definitely, yeah.
Awesome. So, on that note, now we move from Monty to completely talking about Sarah as a person. So, we move to the human side of our discussion. So, first and foremost, Sarah, and I'm really hoping something interesting comes out here. While you're so well known within the industry, but if there is something shocking that no one knows about Sarah, what would that be?
Look, I'm a different person on the personal level. I think you know me a bit. So, at work, in conferences and meetings, you would see the strong, independent me. But really, between my family and friends, I'm a person who's super delicate, super caring. I was raised in a very pampered environment because I was the only girl raised up in that family, etc. So, I would say that I'm a totally different person in my real life with friends and family than what you see in conferences and at work.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe because I know you a little better. But I think, to be honest, to a large extent, your delicate side is visible even in conferences. So even if you put up your very bold businesswoman, let's talk business mode. In spite of that, I think your softness is still something which is fairly visible and evident in any discussion I'm sure you're having. But very well, I'm sure it must have been a very interesting life growing up, having four brothers around you and being so pampered. So, anything very special you'd like to talk about how the entire experience has been growing up in this sort of a structure?
Look pampered and controlled at the same way. The culture over here, it's a bit strict, like a boy can do anything. There's some restrictions on how girls should behave, how long or late they should stay out of the house, etc. But then after growing up, if you want, after like graduating from the university, I would say I was treated fairly equal with the trust I was given, with the travels I was allowed to go to, etc. So at first, during the teenage basically, there was a lot of restrictions, a lot of control of who you can date, who you can get back home, what time you can go, what time you should be back, etc. But then it was looser with time when I graduated after university. So it is challenging, but still, like they are my support system. Having brothers and like always, you fall back to something very solid.
Absolutely, I can totally understand that. And on that note, given all the strictness that you've been raised with, still, in spite of that, if you'd have to do something to unwind and recharge yourself, what would that be? Do you have some passion or interest that you can share with us?
Yeah, I'm a summer person, I would say. So you would find me on the weekends by the beach always. So like Sunday, Saturdays, I would spend them. We're lucky here in Lebanon. We have like 5 or 6 months of sunny weather, good weather for beach, for tanning, etc. So the only way I could chill after a heavy week of work is like having peace by the beach, by the pool, etc. And I do work out twice a week at least, or else it's really hard to cope with the stressful telecommunication work that we do.
I can imagine, and I think especially when one has to step out, so all the more your routine goes for a toss. So it's important as far as possible to be disciplined, at least when you're in your home base. So I can totally get that.
Yeah.
All right. So, on that note, now, Sarah, we move to a more interesting part of our conversation where we play two games. So, the first game is that I'm going to be putting up five words towards you. And for each of the words, I'd love to know the first thought that comes to your mind. And as we tell all our guests that be spontaneous, be human. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. So are you ready for this?
Yep. Shoot.
All right. The first one is telecom.
Passion.
Okay. But I must say that this passion got developed when you entered into this field. Otherwise, telecom was not going to be your passion, right?
True, but like now, I really love what I do. And if you don't really like what you're doing on daily basis, it's gonna be heavy to do it.
I agree. That I totally agree. All right. The second one is motivation.
Success. Whenever you feel that you're successful, you get motivated to do more and more.
Absolutely. And I think by God's grace, you have seen that success in your role. And I do hope there are many more such motivating moments that come in your career going ahead.
I hope so too.
All right. The third one, which we have spoken about briefly, family.
Backbone. They are the support. Like you find them, whatever happens to you, they are always there for you.
Absolutely. The fourth one is career.
I would say independency. When you have a career, when you're financially solid or independent, it gives you a lot of independency.
Yeah, I agree with that. Very true. And the final word where we are today, podcast.
I find it inspiring. A lot of people who are in a very high position, CEOs, founders, etc., they always do certain podcasts, they talk about their success. So I find it very inspiring.
Absolutely. And the intent of even Humans of Telecom is to bring out the human side of a lot of our telecom folks whom we meet so often. And we now get to hear so many more stories behind the scenes. And that often acts as a source of inspiration as well. So that's also part of the effort of this initiative. So, very well said. All right, so Sarah, with that, we now come to a second game, which is another interesting one. Here, I ask the guest to come up with three statements. And in your case, Sarah, I'm hoping each of those statements is equally exotic and interesting. And the intent here is that two of these statements have to be truths, and one of them has to be a lie. And I have to try and guess which one of them is a lie. So, do you have three such statements for us today?
Yes, first one goes first. So, do you remember Anurag, the 4th of August explosion that happened 2 years ago in Beirut?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think the entire world remembers that incident because it literally shook the entire world. So, yes, I totally remember that.
Unfortunately, so it happened around 6 p.m. and I was still in office. And like everyone in Beirut, we thought that the explosion happened right in our building. And then we came to know that it happened on the port, and it is very nearby where my brother lives. If he wasn't showering at that time, he would have definitely been like injured and hurt a lot.
Oh, gosh. All right. So, that's the first one. The second one?
The second one is about me catching a flight from KSA to Beirut. It happened like a couple of months ago. And by coincidence, my brother was taking the same flight back home. He told me, let's go to the boarding, it's on, let's move. And I was like, I need a couple of minutes in the lounge, I will be following you. When he stepped into the boarding desk, they told him that it's either that you go on the plane now, or you can stay and wait for your sister because we are just closing the boarding and the flight should take off. So he decided to leave and leave me behind.
Okay. All right.
The third one is about camping. I'm a camping person. We go camping every weekend almost. It's very fun. I love insects. I love the nature and I really enjoy it.
All right. All right. So, three very interesting statements. And to be honest, each of these statements appears equally truthful to me. I know for a fact, Sarah, that when that explosion happened, I actually reached out to you and you did narrate a story similar to this. So I think I have a bit of an edge here. So I think the first one is a truth. The second one also, one definitely would wish that their sibling hangs on for them, but I can totally
Yeah.
relate to your brother out here. So I'm gonna give him the benefit of doubt that he had to jump onto the plane. So I'm gonna believe that that's the truth as well. And to be honest, you do look like somebody who's one with nature, and you'd be fond of camping as well. But given the game, I'm guessing maybe that's the lie. So I think maybe you're not fond of camping. So, am I right here?
True, this is very true. Look, I was expecting for my brother to wait for me and not go on that flight, but it is true. He decided to leave. For camping, my family actually likes camping a lot. They go very often, very frequent, but I'm the one who goes and spends the day and then leaves at night. I cannot do camping, I cannot sleep in nature. I'm not friends with insects at all.
All right. And coming back, Sarah, to the first statement which you made about the blast which happened in Beirut. So, as I said, that, we all did witness it, and it was something which really shook us, even sitting at this distance. But for somebody like you and your brother and your family and friends who actually went through that entire incident, if you could take a couple of minutes and just talk to us about it, that how was that entire incident and how has it impacted the lives of yourself, your family, friends, and generally the people of Beirut and Lebanon? How has it been for all of you?
True, Anurag. It's very unfortunate what happened. The explosion had an impact mentally on the whole, if you want, people of Beirut and Lebanon. For my brother specifically, he wasn't injured. Thankfully, he was safe. But after that explosion, he left Beirut and Lebanon for good. He now resides in Turkey and he doesn't want to like live here anymore. So it's kind of a trauma that impacted him that he doesn't feel safe here. So the case of a lot of Lebanese that left the country after that explosion. Now things are better, I would say. It has been recovered in some areas. The damage happened, but it was recovered after that. People build it from scratch all over again. So we are strong, I would say. We are strong people. We know how to like rise again. We are able to fix everything even after such an explosion and just stand on our feet. And I would say that a lot of the people who died still don't know the reason behind what happened, how it happened, and it's very shameful, really.
Gosh, I can totally imagine that it would be such a heartbreaking situation for so many people around. And I mean, from far, we were witnessing what was happening. And I know what a difficult moment that was for everyone. And, one thing for sure, which I totally resonate with, is the grit and the strength which I've seen in Lebanese people, in this industry, especially. We interact a lot with people from Lebanon, and one of my colleagues, in fact, Elian, who was earlier working in your organization, works in ours. And one sees that the strength with which all the Lebanese people face adversity and rise up to it, that is really commendable. So I can totally understand that. And I do wish you and the Lebanese people all the very best to keep this inspirational attitude on for all of us to see.
Thank you. Yeah, it's true. We can tolerate a lot of incidents, whether it's economical, it's natural, it's explosions. So we cope with it. We move on and we just live.
Absolutely. And I guess it is something very inspirational. All right. And on that note, we move to our next question where, Sarah, we'd love to know that while you are so busy running around and catching planes as well as missing planes, but do you happen to get some time to read a book and watch a movie maybe? And if so, which are some of your favorites? We'd love to know further.
Look, my answer will be a bit childish, but this is so true. I'm not sure if you watched Monsters Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Have you? The Disney
Yeah.
movie? I always see myself as Bo, the character, the small, tiny girl in that movie. I swear, and it's even my icon on my Netflix account.
Interesting. Now that you're saying it, yes, I think I can actually draw a parallel between both.
See?
So, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And on books, I do try to read at least one book per month. Sometimes they are about relationships. I think the latest I have read was Eight Rules of Love. And I also try to read things about business and more leadership books. And I think the last book was Built to Last. It's about companies
Yeah.
and how some of them do wrong things that will cause them the whole setup to fall apart, etc. So yeah, I try to read a lot.
Wonderful. And I think these are some very well known titles which you are reading. So I think that would really be helping you shape better, both from a human perspective and even from a
Yeah.
telecom perspective. So all the best on that reading journey.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, Sarah, we very soon have fast forwarded to the final section because Sarah means business. So she's been talking to the point, and we are already on our sign off section. So, two quick questions here, Sarah. Firstly, one knows that you're always all over the place and you're found in so many conferences. So, in the next couple of weeks and months, if anybody wants to meet Sarah and get to know more about her, basis this podcast, maybe, which are some of the conferences you're attending?
We're going to WAS 18 in Croatia, and I'm not sure if you know Anurag, but the one after, which is WAS 19, it will be hosted in Turkey and it will be sponsored by us. So I want to see you there. I haven't seen you in a while. You're invited.
Thank you. Now I officially have a free invitation thanks to Sarah. Wonderful. No, I definitely would love to be a part of the event. I think the WAS event has been something very special to me also in my journey because I think that's a very perfect blend of getting the right number of people under the same roof. So it's not like an MWC where there are millions of people all around, nor is it a very small boutique event where you don't have those many people around. So I think typically the WAS event has definitely been a very important one for me in my journey in building my relationships. And I think that's where we have mostly bumped into each other. So for sure, I do hope to see you in Croatia and, of course, in Turkey as well.
I hope so too.
All right. And with that, Sarah, we now come to our final question, which is our signature question. What does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
Hard one. I know like we're totally different, humans like different cultures, different way of thinking. But I think there's one thing that's always common between all, which is our like pure heart or kind heart, like treating people in a very well manner, like keeping a fingerprint, I would say. This is how I would like to be known. I know I might be tough at certain times in certain circumstances, maybe at work, etc. But I would really love to be remembered as a pure person with a kind heart.
Well, to be very honest, in all our interactions, I think the purity and the kindness is something which is quite reflective in our conversation. So I think you are achieving that quite well. So I think you are in that perfect space.
Thank you. Anurag, I think one day we should do the podcast in the total opposites, where someone will host and you will be answering these questions. Because in all the interviews, we are getting to know everyone and all the people from the industry, but maybe it's time for us to know more about you in person as well.
Perfect, Sarah. So, I think you're the second guest on the show who has brought up this question. So, I think I'm going to take a note of all the people who've shown interest, and maybe, we'll have one session, one group session where we'll have
Co
all the people on
hosting.
one side, yeah, co hosting, and I'll be in the hot seat. And I think that will be an opportunity for maybe even me to get to know myself as a human being. So, yeah, would love to see the tables turn at some point.
Yeah, let's plan for that then.
Absolutely. I do hope we work that out. But thank you so much, Sarah. I understand that, in the middle of so many activities that you're busy in, you've managed to take out time from your busy schedule. And it has been a very fun and a very crisp conversation, which is a signature style of Sarah. So I think the listeners will really enjoy this conversation a lot. And yeah, as discussed, I do hope that you had that much fun that we had while recording as well as listening to this podcast. And secondly, I do hope that we do get to cross paths soon.
Look, the conversation flows because like we've been in touch before. I know you in person, so it is a pleasure for me to reconnect with you and to have such an opportunity to talk about myself. Thank you for letting me be part of this, and I really appreciate this initiative from you. I know it takes a lot of work from you, editing, a lot of thinking to select the profiles, etc. So I think it's a great work. Just keep it up, and I hope to see you soon as well.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much, Sarah. I too hope to see you soon. And thank you once again for all the kind words. And as always, to our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Sarah Barakat, someone who has lived in an environment which is completely pampering and strict at the same time. Been a finance professional, but chanced into the world of telecom, and she's been loving her work ever since. So much so that she's worked so hard to make her mark within the telecom space, and she's really doing that so well. And finally, an individual who comes with a very pure heart and a very simple soul. That for us is Sara Barakat. So, if you enjoyed today's show, do stay tuned in because we shall soon be releasing yet another episode and another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.